evening. Welcome to the Town of Riverhead Planning Board. Today is Thursday, May 5th, 2022. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to begin this evening with a public hearing and a public scoping session. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Charters. How are you?
Good. How are you, Madam Chair? Matt Charters, planner, Town of Riverhead. The first public hearing you have is Dreamland at Forest Drive. It's a minor subdivision application. We do have proper notice, mailing, and posting, and I can read the affidavit into the record. Please take notice that the public hearing will be held before the Riverhead Planning Board at Riverhead Town Hall, 200 Howell Avenue, Riverhead, New York, on Thursday, the 5th day of May, 2022 at 6 o'clock p.m. to consider the minor subdivision application seeking approval to subdivide a 2.943-acre parcel into 3 single-family residential building lots with related improvements located at the southwest corner of Main Road, State Road 25 and Forest Drive, and is situated within the commercial residential zoning use district and within the Suffolk County Groundwater Management Zone 4. Sure. The subject parcel is more particularly identified as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-85-1-10.3 by the order of the Planning Board of the Town of Riverhead. And I do have Andrew Graham, the applicant's representative, here to give you guys a brief overview of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Andrew Graham. I'm representing Dreamland Builders in their. My name is Andrew Graham. I'm representing Dreamland Builders in their 3-lot subdivision. It's 3 single-family parcels. They all conform to the zoning. We've determined that there's no wetlands on site. With the mailings, I haven't heard any objection from the neighbors. You know, just a couple of inquiries, but that's it. So, I'm open to questions from the board.
I do not have any questions. Does anyone?
No, it's in keeping with that.
Have you seen the report from the planning staff?
Yes.
So you see there's some recommendations.
For covenants,
Yep.
for no vehicular access off of Main Road.
Right.
Yep, we're fine with that.
Okay. Do we have anyone from the audience that would like to come up and comment? And we don't have anyone on Zoom. Her hand up. Okay, I think we
I'll
can
move we close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion?
vote, please. Bear,
Yes?
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, yes. Okay, let's move on to, thank you very much. The public scoping session for Calverton Industrial Subdivision, also known as OSTAD. We have Greg Bergman that can open this up for us.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, Greg Bergman for the Town of Riverhead Planning Department. So what we have tonight is a public scoping session under SECRA for a application known as the Calverton Industrial Subdivision. This is a subdivision seeking approval to subdivide approximately 131 acres of industrially zoned land in the hamlet of Calverton. The subject property is located at 3511 Middle Country Road on the south side of Middle Country Road within the Industrial A zoning district. The application consists of 2 parcels. Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-117-2-11 and 117-2-13. When this application was initially submitted, there was a 3rd parcel identified as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-138-1-23.1, which has since been removed from consideration of this application at the applicant's request. Regarding SECRA, the Planning Board assumed lead agency status and issued a positive declaration pursuant to SECRA on February 3rd of 2022. On March 29th, 2022, the applicant's environmental consultants submitted a draft scope to be used for the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement That draft scope was circulated to all involved agencies on April 6th. It has since been posted in the Environmental News Bulletin, it has been posted on the town's website, and it has been available in the town clerk's office as well as the planning department. I'll just go over some staff comments regarding the draft scope. I'll summarize them as quickly as I can. In terms of the description of the proposed action, the section regarding permits, approvals, and reviews required referenced New York State Department of Transportation for a highway access permit, assuming onto Route 25. However, the plans do show future proposed access to the Long Island Expressway, so the DEIS should clarify whether any type of federal review and permitting is required, as the Long Island Expressway is also known as I-495 as part of the interstate highway system. As far as potentially significant adverse impacts that will be studied on the DEIS. Regarding water resources, the section should include details regarding ownership and maintenance of the proposed on-site sewage treatment plant, and it is recommended that a map and plan for both the Riverhead Water District and Riverhead Sewer District extensions would be included in the draft environmental impact statement. There was a section regarding ecological resources, including wetlands. This section fails to mention any analysis of Town of Riverhead freshwater wetlands on the subject property. Town GIS and records indicate the presence of Town of Riverhead freshwater wetlands number 1306, 1307, and 1308 on the project site near the south end of the property. An analysis of these town wetlands must be included as well. Regarding the zoning, land use, and community character, the draft scope states that the study area will encompass an approximate 1/4 mile radius around the subject property. Staff recommends that the study area be widened to a 1 mile radius in order to accurately capture the character of the surrounding area. Traffic, which I believe will be one of the significant things that needs to be studied, will probably be one of the bigger lifts in this application. They indicate a number of study intersections, and the application states that the dates and the turning movement counts will be conducted on a typical weekday during the AM peak period from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., the peak PM period from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. The dates and times of the manual turning movement counts must be more specific and should be conducted on more than one day in order to create a representative sampling pool and identify peak times throughout the year. Of specific concern in this area would be peak times for the Lavender by the Bay farm stand, which is located on the north side of 25, directly across from that subject property. I did reach out to the operator of that farm stand. He indicated that the peak lavender season generally runs from the last week in June through the second week in July. So that should be one of the time periods that's studied. In terms of peak times for the Splish Splash Water Park, which is located just to the east of the subject property, for traffic entering and exiting the facility, and as well as days, weekends, holidays. Traffic counts at the Middle Country Road Splish Splash intersection should be conducted specifically during days when the weather is amenable to guests visiting the park. We don't want counts on a rainy, overcast day. The section should also identify the operating time frames for Splish Splash, their season open through the season close, and should identify the operating hours through the park throughout the season, because I do know they are subject to change as the season goes on. As well as the peak times for the fall season, agritourism traffic, which would generally, I would think, be concentrated at Middle Country Road and Edwards Avenue. I did note in reviewing the title report that there is a permanent easement across that property, tax map 23.1, which has been removed from this application. Although that property has been removed from consideration, I feel that needs to be studied, and I will detail that later in the alternatives. In terms of air quality, the section should include discussion of potential mitigation for the increase in vehicle emissions. Regarding noise, the section must include discussion of any potential noise generation at the site during operation, including vehicle truck noise, any electrical transformers, HVAC units, condensers, etc. Regarding energy and climate change, the DEIS should include a discussion of incorporating renewable and green energy technologies into the building design, including but not limited to building construction and energy efficiency, incorporating rooftop solar panels, and geothermal heating and cooling. In the discussion of rooftop solar panels, a solar glare analysis should be included and should analyze any potential impacts to the runways at the Calverton Executive Air Park. Regarding cumulative impacts of the project, the draft scope does state that they will study other planned developments in consultation with the town of Riverhead. They should also consult with the New York State Department of Transportation as well as the Suffolk County Department of Public Works to understand any potential roadway improvements that are upcoming. And then as far as the reasonable alternatives to be considered, the draft scope identifies 4 alternative plans. Alternative 1 is a no-action alternative. Alternative 2 is a yield map with 38 lots in accordance with prevailing zoning. Alternative 3 is a single user under existing industrial A zoning, with no subdivision. And alternative 4 is an alternative access plan with access to the Long Island Expressway. Being that all of the subdivision plans and all the maps currently show a future access, I didn't really think that that was substantively different than what's currently being proposed. Rather than that alternative 4 with the access to the Long Island Expressway, which would need to be studied anyway under the current proposal, I would recommend that alternative 4 should include a description and evaluation of providing future rail spur access to the Long Island Railroad, being that this property owner does have an easement to their benefit to allow connection to the railroad. That's really all the comments I have on the draft scope. If the board has anything that they would like to add, be incorporated into that draft scope. If not, we can open it up to members of the public.
Is there someone here from the applicant?
We do have David Wortman from VHB, and we do have Keith Archer from Archer Harrison Bloom. Close enough. Close enough. All right, sorry.
I have 2 comments.
All right.
When you mentioned the sewage treatment plant, I would want that the applicant look and speak to the Suffolk County Sewer Agency about whether they're interested in the plant to be dedicated to them, or it would be a private plant. And secondly, I'd like to see the little sentence in here about looking for on-site well development. I'd like to see that, make sure that that's covered and expanded. And then one more thing, and I'm sure you will do this under traffic, that you contact New York State DOT, since 25 is their road. And they may even be involved in the expressway thing as well. That's all.
I appreciate your dedication to the traffic that this is probably going to bring. And as far as the Long Island Expressway is concerned, I really think that that has to be part of this project, because we cannot have all the traffic congestion coming into Middle Country Road. That just doesn't make any sense. And I also agree with the railroad spur. Whatever we can do to help everybody in the community is our #1 concern. And adding more traffic to that area is not a good thing. And I'm already receiving phone calls and running into people in grocery stores with all the buzz that's going around for what might be coming there. And it is going to have an impact on traffic. So the fact that you, Greg, really addressed that issue, and I see that you're on top of it, and that makes me very happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have one question. Greg, how close is the sewer from there with the extension that's going through? They're extending it now, or they're about to extend it into,
Indigo.
down in back of,
Indigo.
So there is a right now on 58, the western terminus of the sewer is in front of the Marriott and the Hilton.
okay.
That's the western terminus, so pretty much right where 58 ends, just about. And I believe the western terminus, I think there was some tie-in from the Indigo Hotel.
Yes, that's
which,
the
and I
one I'm
believe they were
referring
going
to.
to be pumping up through to 58, but I don't believe there's any sewer main located within State Route 25 at that location. So the closest public sewer connection would probably be the western terminus on 58.
And you did say that there is no, there aren't any wetlands on the property?
Well, so the maps show a existing wetland in the farm field. There will be an analysis of that wetland to determine its characteristics and its quality. And there are 3 Town of Riverhead wetlands that are shown on the southern end of the property. When we first received this application last year, I did go and kind of walk through that wooded area pretty extensively. Again, I did not find anything, but I'm not a land surveyor. It's quite an extensive piece of property, so I may have just not been, it was really kind of tough to get your bearings in there. But that'll be something that they'll need to analyze, and like I said, they can access town records. I can provide them with any documentation that we have on that, but that's something that'll come out through the review.
Okay. Does the board have anything else?
That's it.
Good job, Rick.
Okay, would anyone like to come up and comment on this?
Good evening. I have a spoiler alert because I'm not quite as succinct as Greg was. I kind of get into the weeds on this, so I
Can you
hope you'll
just-
bear with me. Good evening, Chairwoman Waske.
A little louder, Bob.
Oh, sure. Is that better? Good evening, Chairwoman Waske, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barbara Blass, and I live in Jamesport. And I'm going to submit a copy of my statement to the planning director tomorrow. I'll email it for the purposes of the stenographer as well as the board. I did not have the resources to print all the documents or the statement to distribute now. Okay, so please consider the following comments in connection with this draft scope, the subject of this instant hearing. Land use. The FEAF states that the proposed use is permitted in the Industrial A zoning use district. Nowhere in any of the applicant's submissions is there a description of the proposed use other than what's permitted in the Industrial A district, repeatedly stating that these uses are to be determined. This is not a generic EIS, nor are we just analyzing what some have called lines on a map. This scope is for a site-specific EIS to evaluate potential impacts of a subdivision and development of up to 2.3 million square feet of industrial use and to discuss mitigation as needed. Chapter 301-114 of the Riverhead Town Code provides a list of uses and specially permitted uses for the Industrial A District. Each of these uses requires different quantities of water consumption, sanitary discharge, traffic, differences in air emissions, economic and social impacts. 2.3 million square feet of storage warehousing or manufacturing or distribution warehousing or indoor agricultural production, they'll all differ significantly in their impacts. It is neither acceptable nor consistent with seeker to wait until submission of a site plan to evaluate potential impacts. At the very least, the applicant must assess permitted uses representing a range of impacts from the least to those with the most significant impacts to minimize a challenge of segmentation. Agricultural soils. The DEIS must address the impacts of the loss of another 113 acres of highly productive agricultural soils in the Calverton area in the context of recently approved and currently proposed projects in that zip code, already eliminating hundreds of acres of soil from production. The DEIS should quantify and discuss the implications of land excavation for the installation of foundations, utilities, and drainage improvements for the full site build-out, including traffic assessment for the exportation of those materials. Groundwater protection. The FEAF indicates that it is not yet known if future industrial uses may result in the commercial generation, treatment, storage, or disposal of hazardous wastes. By the way, storage of hazardous waste is not permitted in the Industrial A District. That aside, if necessary, the FEAF continues, future industrial uses would manage, store, and dispose of hazardous waste in a manner that conforms with prevailing regulations. Well, it's assumed that the applicant will abide by prevailing regulations, but that's not why this information is asked. The potential build-out of 2.3 million square feet of industrial development on top of 3 state-listed critical environmental areas warrants more specific attention than a statement of compliance with regulations. The DEIS must address specific measures to protect against potential impacts to the aquifer. The DEIS should address under what conditions would traditional on-site sanitary system be used in lieu of the STP, as was suggested in the FEAF. The site proposed for the STP is a far distant corner from the lot fronting on Route 25 and begs the question of when that infrastructure would be built. The draft scope proposes a very limited study area of 1/4 mile. This is inadequate for the magnitude of the potential development and its adverse impacts to the development of other industrial A and C districts in Calverton, and should be expanded to at least 1 mile. A current market assessment should be done in light of the now millions of square feet of industrial development approved and proposed within Calverton. As demonstrated in the HK Ventures market analysis, Riverhead offers an environment of low-cost land and cheap labor. We must recognize that the impacts on our infrastructure and resources from these developments can be significant. DEIS should also address the potential competition and adverse economic impacts expected by this subdivision on the industrial redevelopment of EPCAL. Although the lead agency cannot control development outside the fence, it can address economic impacts and how these developments may impede or enhance the development of other industrial commercial projects. The DEIS must provide measurable social and economic assessments so that you, the lead agency's findings, will determine and weigh the potential benefits against the adverse environmental impacts. The DEIS should address whether portions of the lots would be leased to individual developers without the need for further subdivision. The DEIS should address whether growth-inducing impacts of the potential future access to the site from the North Service Road of the expressway, as well as the railroad spur. Air quality. The draft scope states that the DEIS will present a qualitative assessment of potential impacts to air quality, including the potential for an increase in carbon monoxide levels in the area. As we know, carbon monoxide combines with atmospheric oxygen to increase carbon dioxide and leads to ozone depletion. Suffolk County is already routinely listed as a severe non-attainment area for ozone. The FEIS states that proposed action will generate methane, but an estimate of the generation in tons per year cannot at this time be determined. The applicant stated they have no ability to describe methane capture, control, or elimination measures in the project design at this time. The DEIS must discuss in detail how the project will be designed to manage or more desirably significantly reduce methane, carbon dioxide, and other greenhouse gases. Later this month, the New York State DEC will commence public hearings on proposed criteria for disadvantaged communities designation. The criteria are based on geographic, public health, environmental hazard, and socioeconomics factors, and once approved, will be used to meet the directives of the Climate Act related to reducing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. According to the recently released maps, this area of Calverton is one such community, and this DEIS should incorporate the implications of such a designation. And finally, a recently proposed code amendment for downtown Riverhead would require that new commercial buildings built in the downtown would incorporate net zero energy standards. This forward thinking more accurately reflects where this town is headed, as is contemplated in the discussions on the comprehensive plan update. At the very least, the applicant should be required to discuss feasibility of incorporating such building designs to some measurable degree. I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to come up and comment? Anyone on Zoom? No hands? Okay, we'll close it.
Make a motion that we close the public scoping.
Oh, sorry.
I did get, like I said, the draft scope was distributed to involved agencies. I did receive correspondence and email this afternoon from DEC that said they would be very interested in providing comments, however, they would not be able to. I would just, if there's no objection to it, I would say if we could keep it open for written comment for 10 days, just to allow involved agencies, and again, I'll follow, I don't think there's any objection. There's no real regulations under SECRA that I think we would be violating, just to allow DEC to provide comments because they are an
Did
involved
they say
agency.
they would? With that,
They
let's
said,
say
they
within
said
10
they
days?
would, they said they are very interested, I guess just staffing, whatever, they couldn't provide it in the timeframe, so they requested an extension from me. So if the board's amenable to it, I would recommend keeping it open for 10 days for written comment.
Okay, since 10 days
Very safe.
falls on a Sunday, we'll keep it open until Monday, the 16th.
11 days?
Okay. Will you send us the other literature that you said you've had, or you've got recently?
I mean, we've gotten the draft scope. I haven't received any other comments from
Oh,
involved
okay. I thought
agencies
you
yet.
said
But
you did.
once I get the DEC comments, they'll obviously be forwarded to the board.
Okay.
And if there's anything pertinent, we can, incorporate that into the final scope.
All right, close the public scoping session of Calvert Industrial Subdivision, also known as OSTAD, and leave the written portion open for another 11 days. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Aye,
I'm going to go Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone that would like to come up and comment on the resolutions before we read them? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, let's continue on with the resolutions.
Resolution number 39 for the Hoag Dental, scheduling a public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Vote please, Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, aye.
I'll move resolution number 40. Assumes a lead agency status and issues a negative declaration pursuant to SEA for the site plan at 680 Elton Street, alterations and change of use.
Second.
Vote please, Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, aye.
I'll move resolution 41, 680 Elton Street, alterations and change of use for a public hearing. So moved.
Second the motion.
Vote please, Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, aye.
Resolution 41, 680 Elton Street, alterations and change
We
of...
did that.
Did that one.
We did that?
Yeah, go to 42.
680 Elton threw me off the house. 42 is Peconic Farms Major Subdivision. Resolution number 42, resolution to approve a 6-lot subdivision sketch plan for the major residential subdivision of Peconic Farms. We've had this a few times, and it's finally getting out there.
Second the motion.
Vote please, Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, aye.
Who else?
I'll move resolution 43 for the proposed drive-in restaurant, granted preliminary site plan approval for the restaurant, 2,283 square foot drive-in with 74 seats, 5,000 square foot, one-story retail building, and all the particulars. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Greg, did we resolve the issue of the sewer pipes? Each one requires their own pipe?
Yes, sir. The comments from the sewer district were forwarded to the applicant's attorney and their design professional. They understood the implications. They were okay with the conditions of the sewer district.
Okay. Thank you. Second the motion.
Vote please, Bear,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Nenaro,
Aye.
Nacesky.
Aye.
Woski, aye. Do we have any public comments on all matters? Anyone on Zoom? They don't get-
I do have a question.
Public scoping and public hearings.
Okay.
I just do have a question, because I see we have stenography, so we're finally getting minutes from our meetings. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen with the, let's say, 2 or 3 past meetings? When are we going to get,
Have you noticed, for the record, Jeff Murphy? Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-R-E-E. I'm the Building and Planning Administrator. As you noticed, we have a new Carissa this evening. Carissa has been transferred to another department. We are now going to be using Flynn Transcription Services, not only for this board, but the zoning board, community development agency, and also the town board. The past meeting where we did not have a stenographer, we're going to send a copy of that recording to Flynn, to which they will then make a transcription off of that record, and you will have that record for you, and you'll vote on that.
So is the planning board going to get an assistant, or no?
We are.
We don't.
That has been the subject of much of my work this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Eileen. All right, thank you, Jeff. Do you have any other business?
Nope.
Correspondences? The next meeting date is Thursday, May 19th at 3 o'clock. To all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day this Sunday. And
Mayo.
that's right, happy Cinco de Mayo today. And I have,
Motion to close the meeting?
How about we're not going to do the minutes?
we don't have them.
Okay.
Minutes?
Second to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
We gotta get minutes.
that's it. Meeting is closed.
Well, we're going to.